Welcome to Conspiracy Tapes by Skoob, the podcast that peels back the glamorous facade of Hollywood to reveal the shadowy networks operating beneath the surface. I'm your host, Ryan Martin, and today we're diving deep into a world where spiritual movements, financial schemes, and elite gatherings intersect in ways that would make even the most imaginative screenwriter pause. What you're about to hear isn't fiction. These are documented events, leaked testimonies, and patterns that have emerged over decades of Hollywood history. From secret ceremonies in California redwoods to the systematic targeting of vulnerable actors, we'll explore how power really operates in the entertainment capital of the world. So dim the lights, because we're about to enter a realm where the line between performance and reality becomes dangerously thin. Let's start our journey in 1955, just 1 year after the founding of what would become one of Hollywood's most controversial organizations. Picture this. You're flipping through a publication called Ability, and you stumble across an editorial that reads like a hunting guide for human beings. The piece urged members to recruit celebrities, and it wasn't subtle about it. A long list of desirable prospects followed, names that would make any talent agent salivate. Marlene Dietrich, Walt Disney, Jackie Gleason, John Ford, Bob Hope, and Howard Hughes. But here's the chilling part. If you want one of these celebrities as your game, write us at once so the notable will be yours to hunt without interference. If you bring one of them home, you will get a small plaque as your reward. Hunt. Game. Reward. This wasn't the language of spiritual enlightenment. This was the vocabulary of predators. The timing wasn't coincidental. American culture was bending increasingly toward the worship of celebrity, with Hollywood as its chief shrine. The organization's founder understood this cultural shift better than most sociologists of his time. If you could capture the celebrities, you could capture the culture. By the end of the 60s, the first celebrity center was established right in the heart of Hollywood, with satellites soon spreading to Paris, Vienna, Dusseldorf, Munich, Florence, London, New York, Las Vegas, and Nashville. The stated objective was clear: make celebrities even better known and to help their careers, with the ultimate goal of taking over the whole acting artist's world. But the real genius was in targeting the vulnerable. The prototype was Gloria Swanson, one of the greatest stars of the silent movie era. Her career had crested, but she still carried enough luster to be rehabilitated into an icon. Swanson was cultivated by auditor Peggy Conway, who wrote letters addressing her as "My Adorable Glory," while reserving her highest praise for the organization's leader. "The master did his Sunday best on me. He never went to bed. We talked the clock around, day after day, night after night. I was 6,000 light years above Arcturus. What a genius is our great Red Father." The language is revealing, mystical, devotional, almost romantic in its intensity. This wasn't therapy, it was seduction. Hollywood was the perfect hunting ground. A constant stream of aspiring young actors, writers, and directors arrived with common dreams, trying to leverage whatever ability or looks they might have in a market already overwhelmed by beautiful, talented, and chronically unemployed young people. Many were poorly educated. They had left the school to gamble on stardom, but they were smart, talented, and desperately ambitious. The organization promised these neophytes an entry into the gated community of celebrity. Even more enticing was the whispered assertion that a network of believers existed at the upper levels of the entertainment industry, eager to advance like-minded followers. Take Kirstie Alley, an aspiring actress from Wichita who left the University of Kansas in her sophomore year, then struggled with cocaine addiction. She claimed that a single session cured her habit completely. "Without this organization, I would be dead," she declared. These testimonials became recruitment gold. The marketing was sophisticated and targeted. Posters featuring television and movie stars were placed outside centers saying, "I am a member. Come in and find out why." In Variety, courses promised to help actors increase your self-confidence and make it in the industry. Members stood outside central casting, where actors sign up as extras, distributing flyers for workshops on finding agents or joining the Screen Actors Guild. The courses focused on communication and self-presentation skills, especially prized in entertainment. The drills would have felt familiar to anyone who had done scene work in acting class. For actors, insecure but competitive by nature, this promised the edge they desperately sought. The fact that anyone was interested in them at all must have come as a welcome surprise. What's chilling is how perfectly calibrated this system was. It wasn't random, it was engineered to exploit the specific vulnerabilities of Hollywood's ecosystem. The loneliness, the competition, the constant rejection, the financial instability. Every weakness became a doorway for manipulation. Now, here's where most people get it wrong about these organizations. When we hear stories about cults or secretive groups, we focus on the beliefs, the rituals, the charismatic leaders. But that's missing the bigger picture. What if I told you that belief is just the engine, but money is the fuel? Let's think about this differently. Many of these groups don't just work as spiritual or cultural organizations. They function as sophisticated financial systems. Religious organizations and nonprofits exist in legal gray areas where donations aren't taxed like regular income. Foundations can collect money for vague causes like education, healing, or creative growth, with minimal public oversight about where those funds actually flow. Hollywood already operates in a world where money is hidden by design. Studios use Byzantine accounting to make wildly successful movies appear unprofitable on paper. Profits are shifted through subsidiaries, licensing deals, and overseas companies. This system is perfectly legal, but completely opaque. When spiritual groups or belief-based organizations exist within this ecosystem, they blend in seamlessly. Money can move through donations, consulting fees, speaking events, or creative services without raising immediate red flags. A spiritual front fundamentally changes how people think about money. If followers believe they're contributing to a higher cause, they're far less likely to question where their contributions go. Payments are reframed as sacrifices, offerings, or investments in personal growth. This psychological shift reduces resistance and increases emotional commitment. People who might hesitate to hand over large sums to a business become willing to give money to something they believe is meaningful or transformative. We're not talking about small amounts here. We're talking about life savings, inheritances, entire fortunes transferred over time. These structures also provide remarkable protection for leaders and insiders. When money flows through organizations rather than individuals, responsibility becomes nearly impossible to trace. Leaders may live lavishly while officially earning modest salaries. Assets are owned by the group rather than any person. If accusations or scandals emerge, the organization can shift names, dissolve, or rebrand while core people and resources remain intact. This explains why some groups survive massive scandals that would destroy normal businesses. When belief alone collapses, money can still sustain the system. Legal teams, public relations firms, and settlement payments cost enormous amounts, but groups with deep reserves built over decades can weather almost any storm. Followers may leave in disgust, but the financial architecture remains. New members are recruited under new language, and the cycle continues. Art and creativity provide especially useful covers for financial activity. Art is subjective, difficult to value, and emotionally charged. A creative collective can justify massive money transfers for projects that are never clearly defined or completed. A retreat can be labeled as spiritual research or artistic exploration. These labels make oversight nearly impossible while maintaining an aura of prestige and purpose. Consider how this works in practice. A wealthy Hollywood executive makes a donation to a spiritual foundation. That foundation pays consulting fees to various entities. Those entities fund artistic projects or educational initiatives. The money has traveled through multiple organizations, been relabeled several times, and ended up funding activities that might have nothing to do with the original stated purpose. At each step, the transaction appears legitimate on paper. The genius is that spiritual language provides emotional cover for what might otherwise appear to be straightforward money laundering. When questioned, everything is explained in terms of higher purposes, personal growth, and artistic vision. Critics are dismissed as materialistic or spiritually unenlightened. Understanding these financial incentives makes the persistence of controversial groups far less mysterious and far more predictable. We're not dealing with irrational belief systems. We're looking at sophisticated economic structures that happen to use spiritual language as camouflage. Let me take you back to a specific moment that crystallizes everything we've been discussing. It's July 2000, Northern California. A man with a camcorder ducks beneath branches in a dense redwood forest. The night air buzzes with insects and low murmurs. Ahead, torchlight flickers. A massive stone owl looms over a clearing. Robed figures chant in Latin. Then something called the cremation of care begins. This footage exists. You can find it online. And if you freeze frame at the right moments, you'll spot silhouettes of former presidents, Fortune 500 CEOs, and, according to persistent rumors, top Hollywood executives. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is documented reality from a place called Bohemian Grove. Hidden in Monterey County, California, Bohemian Grove is a 2,700-acre private retreat where some of the world's most powerful men, no women allowed, gather every July. Past attendees include Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Richard Nixon, and Walter Cronkite, who once lent his voice to the stone owl statue. Clint Eastwood has been photographed there, and reports suggest media moguls like Rupert Murdoch have attended. The public narrative presents it as an elaborate camping trip for rich men, but former staff members tell a different story. One, who disappeared shortly after speaking to a journalist, described hearing screams during ceremonies that weren't part of any performance. Others suggest the cremation of care isn't merely symbolic. It's a psychological purging ritual designed to desensitize participants before major deals are negotiated. Here's where it connects to our entertainment industry. Rumors persist that media moguls use Bohemian Grove to pre-negotiate streaming content before public bidding ever begins. Think about shows like House of Cards, The Boys, or Succession, dark, cynical series that seem to predict political and corporate scandals before they happened. Were these just prescient writing, or something more deliberate? Executives from Netflix, Warner Brothers, and Amazon Prime are rumored to attend these retreats. Deals worth hundreds of millions allegedly get handshake agreements beside ceremonial fires, with no paper trail, no recorded negotiations, just agreements made in a setting designed to break down normal social barriers. The trail leads back to New Haven, Connecticut, to Yale University, and a stone mausoleum known simply as the Tomb. This is home to Skull and Bones, founded in 1832. This secret society has produced presidents, CIA operatives, Wall Street executives, and quietly, Hollywood financiers. Steve Mnuchin is the perfect example. A member who traveled from Goldman Sachs to producing Mad Max, Fury Road, and the Lego Batman movie, then became Treasury Secretary. According to a 2008 whistleblower, a Yale janitor who leaked notes, initiates are filmed during bizarre rituals inside room 322. These recordings aren't souvenirs, they're insurance policies. One producer, speaking anonymously, claimed a major Oscar-winning actor nearly walked away from a franchise contract until footage from his Yale days mysteriously surfaced. The implication is clear. These societies don't just build careers, they control them through carefully maintained leverage. But the influence extends far beyond secret meetings. Consider what happened after a single party in 1972, the Rothschild Surrealist Ball. This event became more than entertainment. It became a template. The masked faces, animal horns, and altar imagery began appearing everywhere. Music videos, magazine spreads, Hollywood fashion events. Beyoncé, Madonna, and Cardi B have posed in visuals nearly identical to the Rothschild Ball photographs. Designers like Alexander McQueen and John Galliano openly borrowed the aesthetic. Even the Met Gala repeatedly draws comparisons, especially when guests arrive in horned headpieces and priest-like robes. The question isn't whether this imagery appears, it demonstrably does. The question is why these particular symbols keep circulating the same dark themes: masks, inverted religious imagery, sacrificial aesthetics, and elite secrecy. In the golden age of Hollywood, while studios churned out wholesome entertainment, a young filmmaker emerged from the underground like a curse whispered behind studio lots. Kenneth Anger wasn't making movies. He was creating occult rituals on celluloid. Born in Santa Monica in 1927, Anger was a child actor before transforming into a provocateur obsessed with Aleister Crowley, the infamous occultist known as the Great Beast. Crowley's doctrine, "Do what thou wilt," became Anger's artistic mantra, but his films weren't just influenced by occultism. They were occult practices disguised as cinema. His 1960s and 70s works, Scorpio Rising, Invocation of My Demon Brother, and Lucifer Rising, weren't experimental art. They were windows into Hollywood's shadow side, featuring real symbolism, real rituals, and real practitioners. Lucifer Rising, released in 1972, starred Marianne Faithfull as Lilith and featured actual Thelemic rituals. Anger didn't cast actors pretending to be occultists, he cast real practitioners. Donald Cammell, son of a Crowley associate, appeared in the film. Originally, Bobby Beausoleil, a musician who later joined Charles Manson, was to compose the soundtrack. After Beausoleil's arrest for murder in connection with the Manson family, Anger proudly used his prison-recorded score. Anger bragged that Lucifer Rising had been consecrated in a ritual involving blood and Egyptian gods. The footage, shot among ancient ruins with fire and moonlit ceremonies, doesn't feel staged. It feels genuinely transgressive, genuinely dangerous. Anger wasn't working in isolation. He connected to Jack Parsons, the rocket scientist who founded the Jet Propulsion Laboratory by day and conducted sex magic rituals by night, attempting to summon the goddess Babylon in the California desert. Parsons, a devoted Crowley disciple, practiced these rituals with a young L. Ron Hubbard, who would later found his own organization. The circle also included Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan, who appeared in Anger's films and hosted black masses in San Francisco. Their network overlapped with mainstream entertainment in disturbing ways. Mick Jagger scored one of Anger's films. Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin, himself a Crowley fanatic who bought Crowley's former house, briefly worked on the Lucifer Rising soundtrack. Roman Polanski, after the horrific murder of his wife Sharon Tate by Manson's followers, directed Rosemary's Baby, a film that eerily echoed the real occult fears swirling through Hollywood's elite circles. The line between life and art had dissolved completely. What's significant is that these weren't outsiders looking in. These were connected insiders documenting practices that were actually occurring. Anger's films serve as historical records of a hidden Hollywood subculture that most people assumed was purely fictional. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the patterns haven't disappeared. They've just become more sophisticated. Let's examine what happens when contemporary stars hint at the darkness behind their success. Take Kesha's case from 2014. She shocked fans by entering rehab, not for addiction, but for what her team called emotional distress. What followed was a years-long legal battle against producer Dr. Luke. But buried in court filings was something far more disturbing than contract disputes. Kesha alleged she had been forced into ritualistic parties, claiming her career was controlled through drugging and abuse involving what she described as satanic themes and psychological manipulation. Most headlines focused on the legal drama and Me Too angles. Few paid attention to the ritual allegations, which were dismissed as metaphorical language or emotional exaggeration. Then there's Lady Gaga's connection to Marina Abramovich, the performance artist best known for spirit cooking. In 2016, leaked emails between Abramovich and political figures revealed invitations to private spirit cooking dinners. References to art pieces where blood, semen, and breast milk are listed as ingredients for symbolic offerings. Abramovich insists it's just art, but her performances involve painting occult phrases in pig's blood on walls, standing in pentagrams, and mimicking ritual sacrifice. Lady Gaga has called Abramovich a spiritual guide in multiple interviews. Video exists of Gaga in what appears to be a mock ritual, covered in fake blood, lying in a bathtub, surrounded by hooded figures. Is it theater, performance art? Maybe. But why does it look so similar to what whistleblowers have described happening in private? Corey Feldman represents the tragic cost of speaking truth to power. A child star in the 1980s, Feldman spent years trying to expose what he called Hollywood's secret predator network, claiming both he and Corey Haim were systematically abused at industry parties. In 2013, he wrote a book detailing names and events but was largely dismissed by major media. He went further, saying some abusers were protected by powerful industry figures who maintained mutual protection networks. When he announced a documentary to reveal names, his life systematically unraveled. Threats, online campaigns to discredit him, even a stabbing incident. His crowdfunding campaign collapsed, and the industry moved on. These aren't minor figures. They were inside the machine. Yet they were crushed for speaking out. For every public testimony, there are dozens more who hint at darker truths before mysteriously pulling back. Interviews get pulled, music videos are altered, social media accounts are wiped. The stories remain, but the voices vanish. The pattern is consistent. Those who speak directly face immediate, overwhelming pushback. Those who hint through symbolism or artistic expression are allowed to continue, perhaps because the truth hidden in plain sight is easier to dismiss than direct testimony. Let's step back and look at the full landscape we've been exploring. Yeah, what we're seeing isn't a single conspiracy, but a convergence of power structures that create environments where accountability disappears and influence operates through hidden channels. Hollywood has always been built on gatekeeping. Who gets access? Who gets opportunities? Who gets protected when scandals emerge? The industry's financial opacity, combined with its worship of celebrity and tolerance for eccentric behavior, creates perfect conditions for alternative power networks to flourish. When spiritual organizations, secret societies, and financial schemes intersect with entertainment industry structures, They create systems that are remarkably resilient to exposure or reform. Money flows through religious and artistic organizations with minimal oversight. Powerful individuals maintain leverage through documented compromising situations. Symbols and rituals create shared identities among elites while remaining incomprehensible to outsiders. The genius of these systems is that they hide in plain sight. Spiritual retreats appear to be wellness activities. Artistic collaborations seem like creative networking. Financial transactions look like charitable donations or legitimate business deals. Secret society connections are dismissed as college nostalgia or harmless tradition. Critics face a sophisticated response system. Legal threats, character assassination, financial pressure, and social isolation. The industry's ability to memory hole uncomfortable stories is legendary. Scandals that should end careers are forgotten within months, while whistleblowers disappear from public view. What makes this different from traditional corporate corruption is the psychological dimension. Spiritual and ritual elements create deeper emotional bonds than simple financial relationships. Members aren't just business partners, they're believers, initiates, or fellow travelers on a shared journey. This makes the networks more cohesive and more resistant to defection. The entertainment industry's global influence means these networks can shape culture on a massive scale. Movies, television, music, and fashion don't just reflect cultural values. They create them. When the same symbolic systems appear repeatedly across different media, they normalize ideas and imagery that might otherwise seem disturbing or strange. As the curtain falls, one truth remains. Power in Hollywood doesn't hide, it performs. Through money, ritual, symbols, and influence, hidden networks operate in plain sight, disguised as art, fame, and entertainment. The patterns repeat, the gatherings continue, and the systems endure because they reward loyalty and punish dissent. The masks still come out at private parties and exclusive retreats. The symbols still flash across red carpets and screens, and the deals still happen far from public view. Most people see spectacle. Few recognize the language behind it. Now that you do, the question is, what happens next? Once you start noticing the signs, can you ever stop seeing them? And how deep do these connections really go? This is only the surface. The full story reveals names, timelines, and connections we couldn't explore here. Download the Skoob app now to unlock the complete investigation and hear what's left unsaid. Because in Hollywood, the greatest illusion isn't what's hidden. It's what's shown right in front of us.